You're back with the crossover with Marlon Jones and Armand Williams.
All right. Welcome back to the crossover. KDUS 1060. Armand Williams, Marlon Jones. All right. Be sure to follow us on our social media accounts on both our YouTube and Facebook page, Crossover 1060, at the Crossover 1060. Once again, at the Crossover 1060. Please do that. I wanted to go ahead and we were talking about Kyler Murray and the Cardinals, whether or not they're going to go ahead and have him participate in any games, football games this upcoming season. You don't think so, and I'm kind of on the fence whether or not they go ahead and they put him in the lineup anytime this season, or they decide to go ahead and hold off on him. Now, everybody pretty much around the NFL and pretty much the experts, they believe that the Cardinals are definitely putting themselves in a position to tank so they can get the number 1 overall draft pick. They have their draft pick, then they have the Houston Texans pick. And both of these teams are projected to finish at or somewhere near the bottom of the league, pretty much statistically as far as wins and losses, which would definitely put them in great position or potential position to have the number 1, number 2 overall pick. Of course, a lot of people are tying that into Caleb Williams, the standout at USC, the Heisman Trophy winner, and he's currently the Heisman Trophy front runner for this season. Of course, a lot of college football left to be seen.
Right.
But a lot of people are projecting that the Cardinals are going to go ahead and forego with Kyler Murray and then bring Caleb Williams into the fray, draft him number 1 overall if they're in a position to go ahead and do that. However, there's recently been a GQ article that Caleb Williams and his daddy, Carl Williams, participated in, where they actually, at least his dad is planting seeds that maybe Caleb Williams doesn't go to the NFL draft. Maybe he just decides to go ahead and go back to college, and he's enjoying the college life at USC, and who wouldn't when you're in his position? And he's making about $2.7 million right now in his NIL deal, and NIL deal might be changing the landscape of like college sports, college athletics, especially when it comes to guys' desires or how desperate they are to jump from college to the professional ranks.
Well, a couple things. That NIL money, that 2.7 is nice, but it's not NFL money.
No, it's not NFL money.
It's not NFL money.
It's definitely not NFL money.
And he has a chance to go back and get hurt going back to play at USC.
Absolutely.
But
that's what insurance policy. That's what Lord of London's insurance policy is for.
Like I said, you still take that. You want to play the NFL.
Absolutely. That's the ultimate goal.
If you're that caliber player, you want to play the NFL. And not to mention the fact that SC has a 5-star blue chip quarterback just waiting to take over.
Absolutely. He can wait.
If
he decides to come back one more season,
if Caleb comes back one more season,
or he'll transfer.
He'll
go and jump in the transfer portal and have to start all over again.
And SC will lose him. So,
but if you're SC, you can go ahead and you can manufacture those like toys, like Kids R Us.
Yes or no? I think there's a lot of hyperbole involved. With the NIL giving the kids a little bit more power than I had a few years ago, and that's great and everything. But when it's not the same as sitting in that room, with your suit on, getting called up to the podium, shaking the commissioner's hand, putting the hat on,
right?
Getting interviewed by everybody. That's different, and being able to buy a little bit more toys than you can now. I mean, I just don't see why he would throw that all the way, because he's going to be the number 1 pick.
Yeah, absolutely is.
Which means you're going to a crappy team anyway.
Right.
So,
but do you want to go to a certain franchise? Or are you trying to potentially specifically avoid a certain franchise over another? We've seen it happen. It's not like this is completely unprecedented. Like, this has never happened. This is a little bit. What makes this a little bit different now is the leverage situation as far as the NIL deals are concerned. Now these kids have a little bit more leverage than they did back in the day. But we saw this with Eli Manning, where he refused to get drafted by the San Diego Chargers, who had the number 1 overall draft pick in the 2004 NFL draft, and they wound up having to go ahead and swap picks between them and the New York Giants, sent him to New York, and then they wound up getting their quarterback, what's his name, out of North Carolina State.
Phillip Rivers.
That had pretty much a Hall of Fame career himself. So you have that situation. And then back in the day, you had John Elway that refused to get drafted back then it was the Baltimore Colts. He said, like he said, you and I were talking about this the other day. He decided, he's like, I'm going to go play baseball. I might just go play MLB baseball and not play football. So they wound up, that got a little ugly, but he wound up with the Denver Broncos. So he never went to the Baltimore Colts, who had the number 1 overall draft pick. And his father, at least in this GQ article that came out, that surfaced recently, he makes a crucial point in the GQ article. He says the funky thing about the NFL draft process is that he'd almost be better off not being drafted than being drafted first, as the system is completely backwards. He says the way the system is constructed, you go to the worst possible situation, the worst possible team, the worst organization in the league, because of their desire for parity, gets the first pick. So it's a gift and a curse. I mean, I've talked to Archie Manning. His career was shot because he went to a horrible organization. He's talking about the New Orleans Saints. He says, I've talked to Lincoln Riley. And Kyler Murray struggled because where he was drafted. Now that's where, ding, ding, ding. That's kind of where like the rabbit ears kind of go up. Like, hey, he's talking directly about the Arizona Cardinals organizations. But he goes on and says Baker Mayfield struggled mightily because of where he was drafted. The organizations matter. And there's a break in the case of emergency option Carl's keeping in mind. He's got 2 shots at the apple, Carl says. So there's not a good situation. The truth is he can just go back to school. So I don't know how much influence his dad has on him, or whether or not he's trying to be the next LeVar Ball and just kind of pop off at the mouth.
Which it kind of sounds like right now, because Archie was stuck before free agency is the way it is now. So he was stuck on those sorry teams. Here now you can construct teams around certain players or whatever. If you're a smart GM, you know how to work contracts, whatever, and get talent around your franchise, around a certain player. So if he goes back to USC and threatens them and plays again, right, he's still gonna get drafted by the worst team in the league. He's still gonna be put in that same situation.
But he won't be drafted by the Cardinals potentially.
Well,
it could turn around and wind up biting him anyway.
Exactly, because it could be, for argument's sake, it could be Houston.
Right.
Do you
it could
really
be just as bad or not a worse franchise, which it probably will be.
Absolutely.
The New England Patriots aren't probably going to suck for 1 year and then probably go ahead and wind up with the number 1 overall draft pick, be able to draft him. So he's going to have to go ahead and take his knocks.
Take the knocks like everybody else before you.
Right.
You got
with the exception of Eli Manning.
With the exception of Eli, whatever. And you'll have that signing bonus to help him sleep through the night. Right. And He'll enjoy living in Phoenix. He can go down and kick it in Old Town with Book and all them, and be happy. Right. And then it's up to Gannon and everybody else to build a team around him.
Sure. But I got to ask this question. Do the Cardinals have that bad of a reputation? Because I would say, I'd be inclined to say, yeah, they do have that bad of a reputation. Remember, they just recently had a grading. They ranked all the NFL teams, or graded all the NFL teams based on their facilities, how they treat the players, how they treat the staff, and then the players and a lot of the staff anonymously around the league, they voted and they went ahead and rendered out grades. Cardinals had the worst grade in the NFL.
Oh.
They had the worst grade. I think it was them. I think the Cincinnati Bengals had the worst grade in the NFL as far as like how they treat their players. Right? I mean, like for an example, if you're a player for the Cardinals, at least up until recently, you work out and you stay late. You want to grab something to go, something to eat. Now they'll give you a sack. They'll give you like a sack dinner, but they make you pay for it.
Oh, man.
They make the players pay for it. Going back into the days when I was playing professional football back in the 90s, I heard stories of like the players had to pay for their socks and jock straps and shorts and like tees and stuff.
Okay, well, that's a little bit different.
And you had guys that were working out, guys that weren't even utilizing the Cardinals facilities in the offseason. They were working out at LA Fitnesses and Gold's gyms and stuff. And they still had this reputation to this day. And I'm like, I thought y'all changed stuff when y'all got the new stadium, but apparently not.
No, the Bidwell's still on the team, so of course they haven't changed. So from that standpoint, I guess that makes things a little bit different. It puts things a little bit a different perspective, I guess. Who wants to deal with that? So
they gotta get their stuff together, man.
Yeah,
they really do. And then, now you're looking at a possible situation. We kind of harped on it. We got into it a little bit. We really didn't get into it that much. They might potentially lose a draft pick if Roger Goodell and the NFL front office, if they decide, they determine from this arbitration stuff that's going on right now and this depositions, and all this discovery stuff that's coming out with Steve Wilkes, the former head coach, prior to Cliff Kingsbury getting the job, about Steve Keim using the burner phone to communicate with some of the team, with some of the coaches and some of the staff with the Cardinals organization back when he was suspended for about 5-week period after he had an extreme DUI back in 2018. It's ugly for the Cardinals, and it's only going to get uglier, and the season's going to be pretty much a microcosm of everything that's going on around them.
Can somebody just take over from the Bidwells like they did with Sarver?
I think there's a lot of people that are kind of hoping and praying that something happens, so they wind up having to probably sell the team off. But don't count on it.
Don't quote you on that?
Yeah, don't count on it.
All
right. Coming back, we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at ASU and U of A matchups today against some top 2 power conference opponents. You're tuning into the Crossover, KDUS 1060.